We begin this morning with a desperate search at sea after a jet carrying 239 people vanished off the southern coast of Vietnam.
Where is Malaysia Airlines Flight 370?
4 weeks on from the plane mysteriously disappearing, time is running out.
239 souls disappeared into silence. Mothers, fathers, children, gone without a trace. Families begged for answers. Governments searched vast oceans, and yet nothing. But now, nearly 10 years later, forgotten satellite photos captured in those desperate first days have been reawakened by artificial intelligence. What it reveals is chilling. Shapes, shadows, and fragments that look disturbingly familiar. Could this be the evidence denied to grieving families all along? 239 souls vanished into the night sky on March 8, 2014. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 lifted off from Kuala Lumpur, bound for Beijing, on what should have been a routine flight. Less than an hour later, the aircraft slipped from radar. No distress call, no warning, only silence. In an age of satellites and smartphones, the idea that a Boeing 777 could simply disappear was unthinkable. Yet it did. The first frantic searches focused on the South China Sea. Naval ships, aircraft, and rescue teams swept the waters where the plane was expected to be. But the ocean gave back nothing. No debris, no oil slick, no trace.
Is completely unprecedented on so many levels. Nothing has ever happened quite like this.
Families gathered at airports, clinging to hope, while governments issued vague, conflicting reports. The mystery deepened when investigators uncovered satellite data suggesting the plane had flown for hours after contact was lost.
It's not possible that he went back north, otherwise the radars would have seen it. So since he didn't go north, he went south.
Heading south into one of the most remote stretches of the Indian Ocean. Australia led the largest, most expensive search in aviation history, scouring a seafloor the size of France. Still, nothing. Years later, pieces of MH370 washed ashore on islands and African coastlines, confirming what many feared, that the plane had crashed into the Indian Ocean. But without a crash site or black boxes, closure never came.
It's important that we get some form of closure. It's so important that they do not give up on the people that we love.
And even as the official search ended in 2018, one detail was quietly waiting to resurface. Satellite photos captured in those early desperate days, showing shapes in the sea that were overlooked or ignored. What those photos reveal, years later, under the eyes of artificial intelligence, would shake the entire investigation. In the first weeks after MH370's disappearance, the world's eyes turned skyward. Satellites were capturing images over the southern Indian Ocean. And by late March 2014, France's space agency made a startling announcement. Their satellites had photographed large objects floating in the water. Soon after, China and Malaysia released similar findings, blurry shapes, some more than 10 meters long, drifting in remote currents. Headlines screamed, probably man-made. To many, it seemed the wreckage had been spotted within days. But what happened next is where the mystery deepened. Those images, pixelated and imprecise, were quietly set aside. Officials labeled them inconclusive, suggesting they were nothing more than ocean garbage. Governments turned away from what satellites had seen, chasing mathematical models instead. Pings from Inmarsat satellites that mapped out the infamous 7th arc west of Australia. Behind closed doors, intelligence agencies reportedly cataloged hundreds of such images, some from commercial satellites, others from military-grade equipment. Yet most of them never saw the light of day. Some families suspected deliberate suppression, believing governments feared exposing the capabilities of their satellites.
One piece of debris doesn't represent my husband. It just says the plane is there, so now you need to bring everyone back.
Others blamed bureaucracy, an overwhelming flood of data too vast to analyze quickly. Whatever the reason, the result was the same. The potential wreckage dispersed, carried away by relentless ocean currents.
Some of the theories are that the aircraft landed someplace.
The tragedy of MH370 was not only the plane's disappearance, but also the way evidence slipped through the cracks. Those early satellite images, blurred and pixelated, were cast aside as inconclusive. Yet, in hindsight, they may have been the best chance to locate the wreckage before the ocean claimed it. Debris fields drift quickly, scattered by powerful currents and winds. What might have been a visible wreck in March 2014 became meaningless fragments by April. Every passing day, the trail grew colder. For the families, the realization was devastating. They were told officials had searched everywhere, that nothing remained to be found. But whispers circulated. Satellite photos existed, images the public had never fully seen. Were governments hiding something? Was it incompetence or deliberate silence? France, China, and Malaysia all confirmed they had pictures of possible debris, yet none were pursued with urgency. This failure carried a human cost. For years, relatives of the 239 souls endured limbo, mourning without closure, anger without answers. Many accused governments of protecting secrets at the expense of truth, while others suspected politics. After all, acknowledging sharper satellite resolution could expose military capabilities no nation wanted to admit.
They were making it up as they go along.
And so the photos were shelved. But they weren't lost. Waiting in dusty archives, they held details invisible to the human eye, details that artificial intelligence would one day bring back to life. By 2018, the official search for MH370 had ended. Governments declared the trail cold, and families were left with little more than unanswered questions. The ocean had swallowed its secrets, and officials quietly turned the page. But technology was changing in ways few had predicted. Artificial intelligence, once dismissed as experimental, was now transforming medicine, defense, and space exploration. And independent researchers began to wonder, could AI uncover what human eyes had missed in those grainy satellite photos? The task was daunting. The original images were poor in quality, blurred shapes drifting across endless waves. To the human eye, they looked like random smudges, evidence easily dismissed as ocean garbage. But AI does not rely on human perception. It detects patterns buried in noise, sharp edges lost in blur, and reflective surfaces invisible to exhausted analysts in 2014. A group of independent analysts fed every archived satellite photo into machine learning models designed to spot man-made objects. The results were astonishing. AI flagged dozens of overlooked images, highlighting rectangular outlines, metallic reflections, and angular shapes consistent with aircraft debris. When computational photography enhanced the resolution, outlines resembling fuselage fragments and wing sections began to emerge from the noise. For the first time in years, the investigation had shifted from speculation back to substance. But AI was only the beginning, and the deeper it looked, the more it revealed. While artificial intelligence uncovered the shapes within forgotten photos, another breakthrough was reshaping the search from a different angle. Quantum computing, capable of processing immense datasets at speeds unthinkable a decade ago, was applied to the mystery of MH370. Researchers combined AI's findings with ocean drift models, feeding billions of data points into simulations. The goal? To retrace the path of debris from where it was found back to where it began. For years, oceanographers struggled with this problem. Currents in the southern Indian Ocean are chaotic, swirling across ridges and trenches, shifting with seasons and storms. Early models were too rough, too limited, often placing wreckage across vast, impossible zones. But quantum-powered simulations changed that. With more precision, analysts could trace the paths of debris found on Reunion Island, Mozambique, and South Africa back toward a concentrated region, slightly north of the official 7th Arc search zone.
The implication was profound. The wreck may have always been just beyond the reach of earlier search efforts. Ocean Infinity, a private company specializing in deep-sea robotics, recently launched a renewed search in 2025, targeting a new 15,000 square kilometer stretch of seabed under a no-find, no-fee deal with Malaysia. The technology promised sharper eyes and better accuracy. If the simulations are right, the wreckage has been lying in darkness all along, waiting to be discovered. But was it missed by accident or ignored on purpose? For the families of the 239 people on board MH370, every new revelation comes with a sharp edge. The AI analysis of satellite photos seemed to confirm what many had long suspected, that evidence was overlooked or dismissed in those early weeks. To grieving relatives, this was bittersweet. It was validation, proof that their voices had not been in vain, but it was also a painful reminder. If these photos had been acted upon in 2014, answers might have come years earlier. Anger followed closely behind hope. Families questioned why governments spent hundreds of millions of dollars scouring the ocean, while potential clues sat untouched in archives. Was it incompetence? Was it secrecy? Or was it bureaucracy that failed them when time mattered most? Some saw the AI discoveries as science's triumph. Others viewed them as evidence of human failure, evidence that precious time and perhaps closure had been wasted. Beyond grief, the revelations reopened wounds that had barely begun to heal. Families who had clung to faint hopes of survival were now forced closer to acceptance that their loved ones were gone, lost to the unforgiving Indian Ocean. AI offered sharper clues, but it also exposed the silence of wasted years. For some, the truth felt closer than ever. For others, the truth had been stolen long ago. For years, the vacuum left by MH370's disappearance was filled with theories. Some believed the plane had been hijacked and flown to a secret airbase. Others insisted it had landed on a remote island, or that it was shot down by a military power. Online forums speculated about cyber hijacking, hidden override systems, or even government cover-ups. With no wreckage, no flight recorders, and no clear answers, every possibility seemed credible. Families split into camps, clinging to whichever explanation gave them hope. But artificial intelligence began to change that landscape. When machine learning flagged debris-like shapes in forgotten satellite images, the discussion shifted from what if to what is. These weren't fantasies or rumors. They were patterns consistent with man-made wreckage, corroborated by multiple AI systems working independently. The data pointed again and again to the southern Indian Ocean, in line with scientific drift models, and just beyond the official search area. Conspiracy theories began to lose oxygen. Evidence suggested a far simpler, if more tragic, reality. MH370 likely went down in one of the most remote and unforgiving corners of the sea. For families, the pivot was painful but grounding. Unrealistic hope faded, replaced by a fragile sense of acceptance. For the first time in a decade, the mystery was no longer dominated by speculation, but by evidence strong enough to demand action. Even as AI brought fresh evidence, one question loomed: would anyone act on it? For years, governments had declared the case closed, unwilling to pour more money into a mystery they deemed unsolvable. But families kept pressing, armed now with AI-enhanced images and drift simulations that narrowed the possible crash site. Their demands were clear: send ships back into the ocean. In 2025, those demands gained traction. The Malaysian government signed a new agreement with Ocean Infinity, a private company known for its deep-sea robotics. Under a no-find, no-fee contract, Ocean Infinity would scour a new 15,000 square kilometer stretch of seabed in the southern Indian Ocean. If successful, the reward would be $70 million. It was a gamble,
but one many believed was long overdue. The mission, however, faced setbacks. By April, the search was suspended due to fierce weather, leaving families once again waiting. Plans were made to resume at the end of the year, when calmer seas might allow the company's robotic submersibles to dive again. The technology was promising: autonomous drones capable of mapping the ocean floor in astonishing detail, guided by the very AI and drift models that had reignited the search. But the question remained: if the wreck was always there, just beyond the reach of earlier expeditions, why did it take a decade of silence before action was taken? The disappearance of MH370 exposed a sobering truth. Even in a hyper-connected world, a modern aircraft could vanish without a trace. For the aviation industry, this was unacceptable. In the years that followed, new rules and reforms emerged, direct results of the tragedy. Airlines began adopting systems for real-time tracking, ensuring that every aircraft regularly transmitted its position, even over remote oceans. International bodies pushed for quicker activation of distress signals and for flight data recorders capable of floating free in a crash. But the lessons went beyond hardware. The rise of artificial intelligence in the MH370 case highlighted how traditional investigative methods were no longer enough. Aviation generates mountains of data, from radar sweeps to satellite signals, weather logs, and communication records. Data far too vast for human teams alone to analyze in time. AI, with its ability to scan for patterns at an unimaginable speed, may represent the most important advance in aviation safety since the invention of the black box. Still, questions remain. Who should control these AI tools? Governments, airlines, or independent investigators? And how can accuracy be guaranteed without over-reliance on algorithms? For families, reforms are important, but answers matter more. Because even if aviation grows safer, the shadow of MH370 remains, a haunting reminder that 239 souls vanished and the world still waits for the full truth.